In the beginning, there was only darkness. The stars were cold, the light of humanity scattered and dim. But from that darkness, the Emperor rose, a god among men, to reclaim his lost sons. Among the stars where the Primarchs had been scattered by chaos, one world burned closer to terror than any other. A hollow world, stripped of life, eaten from within by the greed of ancient miners. This world was called Cthonia. Once, Cthonia had been rich in ore and industry. Mining corporations had hollowed its crust, creating vast catacombs, tunnels wide as cities, shafts that reached its molten heart. But when the mines ran dry, the corporations fled. What remained were men, abandoned, starving, feral. In that darkness, humanity endured, but it was a brutal existence. Tribes and gangs ruled by the knife. Every tunnel was a territory, every breath a challenge. The weak were stripped of life, the strong rose through murder and fear. And in this world of shadows, a child came screaming into the dark. He was not born, he was found. A being of impossible strength, intellect, and purpose. His name would one day echo across the galaxy. Horus Lupercal. Horus grew amid violence and anarchy. To the gangs of Cthonia, he was first a prodigy, and soon a terror. His strength was beyond human, his will unbreakable. He united the gangs not through cruelty, but through charisma and command. Where others killed for survival, Horus killed for unity. In time, the tunnels whispered his name not in fear, but in reverence. He was more than a warlord. He was a king beneath the earth. Even in youth, he sought order where there was only chaos. He rebuilt, fortified, organized. He gave his people meaning in a place that had none. But no matter how far he rose, the tunnels could not contain him. The stars called, and something greater waited beyond them. The Emperor turned his gaze upon Cthonia. He found not a world of scholars or kings, but a wasteland of killers. Yet within that ruin, the Emperor found his son, the Primarch he had sought for so long, the first of his children to be found. The meeting between the Emperor and Horus is a tale told in countless ways. Some say the Emperor descended into the deepest tunnels alone, his light driving back the dark. Others say Horus led an army to meet him on the surface, seeing the golden figure a reflection of destiny itself. But all stories agree on one thing, that in that moment, Horus knew who stood before him. He needed no proof, no words. The bond between father and son was instant, absolute. And for the first time since the scattering of the Primarchs, the Emperor was no longer alone. Horus was the first to be found, and thus the first to learn of the Emperor's grand design. He walked beside his father as his legions marched across the stars. Together, they brought worlds to heal, raised banners of unity, and proclaimed the dawn of a new age. The Lunar Walls were the Emperor's chosen, his spear, his vanguard, and Horus led them with brilliance unmatched. He was warrior, strategist, diplomat, the perfect general. To the soldiers of the Imperium, he was the war master in all but name, the Emperor's voice when he was absent, his will made flesh. And between them grew something deeper than loyalty, something that went beyond duty, a bond of trust and of love. For decades they fought side by side. World after world fell before their commanded might. To Horus, the Emperor was more than a ruler. He was a father, a mentor, a god made flesh. The Emperor shared with Horus what he shared with no other: his vision, his hopes, his burdens. He spoke of uniting mankind not through faith, but through reason, of building an Imperium where all men could rise above ignorance and fear. And Horus listened and believed. But even the brightest stars cast shadows. As the Crusade expanded, the Emperor's duties grew vast. More worlds needed guidance, more armies needed command, and so, often, the Emperor left Horus to lead in his stead. The Lunar Walls came to see Horus not just as their commander, but as their living god, and across the legions his name became legend. The Emperor's trust was absolute. Horus could do no wrong, and that love, that perfect trust, would one day be his undoing. Horus Lupercal was the first son reclaimed, the first to walk beside the Emperor, the first to be loved above all others. He was the spearhead of the Great Crusade, the architect of victory, the brightest of all humanity's champions. His deeds would echo through eternity. But history is not kind to the brightest stars, for the greater the light, the darker the shadow it casts. This was the rise of Horus Lupercal, the first son, the war master who would one day bring the galaxy to its knees.